Before joining to Identyum, I worked in the banking sector for over 15 years. In this period, I worked in sales in retail segment, corporate segment, but mostly on product development. So let's say this extensive background gives me a good and deep understanding of banking processes and operation, and making me easy today in Identyum to understand the differences in comparing the traditional banking and the digital transformation. But I would like precisely I would like to note one experience that I have, which was also my inspiration for this article. That was one fintech conference just shortly before our first contact about the interview. The conference was directed to banks, to fintechs, and governments, etc. And one presentation, one panel was about how are banking adapting to these new digital challenges, etc. And the presenter of one central bank on that panel within this topic was talking about impressive numbers of users of internet banking and mobile banking, and huge numbers of online transactions to these services. Yeah, and that made me to think about what type of digital transformation that we are talking. And I realized that this is not the digital transformation that we are talking today. Yes, of course, those services change the banking's operation undeniably, that's for sure. But this is not the digital transformation that we're talking today. So that was also, let's say, my experience and inspiration for this article. In any business, particularly in financial business, the most important is when you in the relationship with the client, with the clients, is the most important thing to be sure into the identity of the other person, the person from the other side, as well as to know their habits, their preferences, etc. This is very fundamental for the bank into providing their services and products. And yeah, it is big challenge today for the bank how to put those aspects now into the digital form, completely remotely, entirely digital, online, etc. Yeah, and this is challenge for the banks. So Identyum is digital identity provider. So what we do, we provide banks and other businesses, but today we will talk about banks with services who helps banks to remotely identify their clients, not only existing clients, especially the new clients, electronic signature, digital signatures, and as well solutions that for banks where they can retrieve the bank data of their clients if they have account in some other bank. So this is, let's say, the set of services that we provide to our banks. I have to say that all these services are completely comply with AML, GDPR, so complete KYC for digital onboarding is full in let's say in under the law and other regulation frameworks. So this is how the Identyum is set up, let's say, into this digital onboarding, etc. Let me try to explain on the examples that I mentioned earlier. That was internet banking and mobile banking services. So yeah, for sure, those services gives and accept clients to do business remotely in some segment of business. But however, a level of digital transformation that we're talking about would be that any person, regardless on the status of client status in the bank, so including no clients, so that any person can access to those services completely remotely. What does that mean? So to make it possible that the client can identify himself, also to sign the contract if it's needed, and usually in the bank each product and services has the contract. So to do all the flow, all the process completely and remote. So without coming even one time into the branch. That is the level of digital transformation that we are talking today when I say that this level is not enough. First of all, those generations are grown up in a culture that is technology with the social media, and those generations are they expect a fast results, instant information. The way how they communicate with the bank and the other businesses by technology, not to coming in face to face to the branch. So it is a very important for the banks to try to understand their behaviors, habits, preferences, and try to find out what kind of product and services they can offer now at this time to those generations. For example, those generations are already or will be in the workforce, so they will have income, salary, they will have also financial needs like applying for a loan, current account, and everything. So if the banks now doesn't have or don't even think about to offer that kind of products completely remotely on the way how they are used to it, then this is really really very big challenge for the banks. So I believe I think that traditional banking will not disappear. You will always have people that will rather choose the traditional banking face to face. Even those people who are used to digital channels, digital services, they will also have maybe a need to interact face to face. But it's important to give a choice. If you want to go with traditional banking on digital way of banking, it's important to have a choice. I think, and that's the way how the bank can work in the for all clients. Digital onboarding is automated access to the financial. And we're talking about bank to financial services. So that means that each client can access to those services completely online. Yeah, of course, that is also the main difference between the traditional onboarding. The main crucial thing in a digital onboarding is identification of the client that should be valid, secure in frameworks of law, regulation, and everything. But in the same time, the second crucial thing is user experience while clients doing the onboarding digitally. So this is two main crucial features of digital onboarding. But other advantages a part of this remote business on digital onboarding for banks are also reducing costs. You don't have paper, you don't have those employees that need to communicate into the face. You have the efficiency of the processes much more higher because you all collect data that you during the digital onboarding they are stored automatically into some central register system in the bank. Then you also have convenience. It's much more easier because from every place, every time, clients can onboard and to have access to some products and services. Identify is fully remote, automated, legally valid service for identification for digital onboarding and KYC. So, to identify services, any other businesses, but as well as bank, could retrieve the identity data from other person, from other client, new client, existing client, whatsoever. All service identify each steps in the identifications is completely compliant with KYC and GDPR. From the bank side, the process is straightforward. While the bank is sending the request to a person who wants to identify completely remotely. In the other side, from the client, it is important when the clients receive the request from bank, only that the client need is a mobile phone, smartphone, or laptop, so some kind of device, his device, internet connection, and ID card, identification document. Uh, According when I talking about GDPR and KYC compliance, before even the starts the identification process for digital onboarding, clients receive all the information about the bank. You're talking about the bank who is sending the request, in what purposes they need the identification, and what kind of data they request. This is very important. Also, during after the identification process, before sharing identity data of the client to the bank, the client must give explicit consent. This is really important. So the client, we cannot share the data, identity data, anywhere before the clients give the consent. This is I will try to explain how this process is doing, how it goes. So the bank to identify service send the request. Only what the bank needs to know from this client is phone number or email. So one contact data. The clients on the other side, that could be also like I said, existing, or this is very important for new clients because bank doesn't have any information about him. The clients receive the link for this request. He opened the link and he can see, okay, this bank sends me the request for this purpose and they ask me for this data. If I'm fine with it, because probably before that the client probably asked for some product or services, so he expects this. The he starts identification process starts first with verification of his mobile phone, mobile number, and email. Then the next step is liveness. We have to check that in the other side is a live person. So he do it with his device, with his camera. This is 3-second process. The next thing that is we have to OCR or retrieve data from the identity card. So he has to scan his card. The next step is that the client needs to his identity card rotate in front of his camera of his device. This is the very crucial step according to GDPR and everything. We are using AI technology also, but also live agent. What does it mean? Behind all this identification process, we have people, live agents 24/7, who in this step, when the client comes to the step that he need to rotate the identification card in front of the camera, except AI and technology, also the live agents are looking to this camera if this ID document is verified. This ID document has everything what it needs to, like lamination, like hologram. Is it on mobile or is really an ID card outside? So this is very, very important. And in the end, the last step is that we need to compare the liveness, so that we have 3D map of his face with the photo on the identity card. And this is the over for the client. But in the background, we have also some extra controls, like in Croatia, for example, we also using external official source, like OIP-HR is a personal ID number of the client, or a financial agency, where we can also compare the address, name, and this personal ID number with everything what we retrieve from identity data. And if those everything is compared, then the identification process is successful, verified, and we, after the explicit consent of the client, sending those identification data to the bank, and then bank starts prepare products, contracts, and this is illustration of the process. If the banks in digital onboarding have also included the electronic signature, then we are talking about, I would say, a little bit higher and progressive or digital onboarding, especially in banks. Why is that? Because usually digital onboarding starts because the clients search for some products, services, and etc. If the digital boarding after the identification finish with this, but we need to sign some contract, because usually, especially in the banks, each service, each product has the contracts besides. If these digital products, it doesn't include the electronic signatures, then the digital onboarding for both sides, and for the bank and for the client, is useless. Because what, you identify your client, and what, then the next time you will say, please come to branch to sign the contract. That's not the solution. So it is very important to continue digital onboarding after identification, with providing issuing the signature certificate to create electronic signature. Usually client doesn't have any existing electronic solution for signature. So it's very important that this digital onboarding process is not stopping, that we can issue certificate, create the signature, and send back the contract to the bank. Then we are talking about high level, let's say, of digital onboarding. And this is why is the signature very important, that to be part of the digital onboarding. Because like I said, if you might lose client if you don't finish the until the end, you might lose client, because maybe he will not come back on this process or whatsoever. So very important to start with identification and finish with the signing contracts. Here we are talking about PSD2 directive, payment service directive, European. So bank retain a lot of data about our accounts, about transactions, how we pay bills, do we have some savings habits, and etc. now, under the PSD2 directive, those data are accessible to other third party, to companies who can, through interface of the bank, retrieve those data and do some for their products or somebody else. This is very important that I have to say that companies that can do it first, they have to be licensed and certified by the regulator. That is very important. So it cannot do it. And technology for this has to be completely secure, protected. Uh, Identyum Fintech is our service. Identyum from 2019, we were certified and licensed by CNB, Croatian National Bank, as a PSD2 AISP provider. So we are that third party, that company that is allowed to retrieve data. Why is that Fintech as a service and this functionality is important for banks? I will try to explain on the example of Croatia. All, except on Croatia and also in other countries, you have some central credit register in which all banks, all financial other institutions are exchanging credit data, credit obligations of their client. In this credit register, you have the information about type of these obligations are loans, credit cards, and overdraft. And yes, banks exchange those data. This is very important for them, especially when they need to predict or to find the financial capacity for the client. But this is not the whole picture. Is for the bank to make decision to approve or not approve a loan. Why? Because you don't have transactions, you don't have accounts, especially if we are talking about new clients who is applying for a loan in your bank. Okay, now you have information about existing loans, but you don't have about his salary, about his transactions on the current account usually, and then banks use FinCheck, our FinCheck, so that we can retrieve the data from the client's account in the other bank and to send to the bank. In this transaction, you have except of the owner of the account, which is also important for identification. You have the number of account number and all transactions in this in a year in 1 year. This is also important because not just to find out financial capacity of these clients, but to find out his habits, his preferences, because they are very important to predict if this client will or will not repay the new loan. And we also can, through FinCheck, we can also, if the clients, if the banks ask for this, we can also do some categorization of these transactions. So just to see what are the incomes or obligations or whatsoever. And also we can also do, if it's needed, a little credit score, so just also according to these transactions. So if the bank has the whole information about the loans, overdrafts, and credit cards, and also have the information about the transaction of the current account, for example, then the bank has the whole picture to make a decision to approve or not to approve, or even go to relationship with this client if you're talking about a new client. First, I would say, so we have three levels of e-signatures: simple signatures, advanced signatures, and qualified signature. Simple signature is a signature that it doesn't need the prior identification of the client. But of course, for banks, this is not good enough level of signature, because if something happened or is we have to go to the court or something to prove that this person really signed this document with simple signature, they are legal. They are also according to AIDAS, but it is a low level of the signature. Then you have advanced and qualified signature, who are must be to that something that can be defined as advanced signature has to be clearly connected with the identity of the person. So that's the reason when you issue the certificate for advanced signature, you need to be connect directly with the identity of the person who will use this. I will try to explain here with our ID wallet, which I didn't mention in our article, but this is the reason why I explain what is the ID wallet, because when you issue a certificate to the citizen, you need to store somewhere this certificate. So it is important where to store in with our solutions. When the when the digital onboarding is finished, when we have identification, client, citizen has the option to create his own digital ID wallet. This is the wallet where all his identification data will be securely stored, completely encrypted with his PIN. And after, when we go to the further step of the signing, also this signing certificate will be stored into his ID wallet. And what does that mean in a digital for the banks? That means that any other future communication with the client, if you when you will send him something for signature, something to maybe for also before identify himself, he will be much more faster because he will not have to go through the onboarding process again, or process of issuing a certificate or something. He will do it that in 3 seconds, because he will just have to authenticate him with ID wallet and just sign the document. And that is important. Why is the signature is connected? It has to be, because this is like your handwritten. It's not from the bank. It's my, and so we have also qualified signatures. I have to here also say that when I'm talking about or identification or signing and issuing certificate, we are still client, the end user, the client, the citizens, still doesn't need nothing but mobile or a laptop, internet connection, and ID card. So even for issuing the certificate, he doesn't need any USB stick, any additional device, any downloading some application or programs, nothing. Everything is done in one flow. So that is important why the signature needs to be connected with the client. Digital revolution really changed how the bank operates today, and will operate in the future. And I have to say, from our experience, since we are working lots with the banks really recognize this, and they are preparing for this, and they are adopting those new technology. But from my point of view, and let's say some kind of my advice for the banks would be, I believe that the main role lies into the people who are responsible for digital transformation and leadership of the bank. Because digital transformation requires clear vision of what the banks really wants to implement it. And if you have people in bank who are leaderships and who are the decision makers and have the will to push that to improve, then the sex is much more high. So I believe, let's say, my first advice would be that really it's everything is on those people who are decision maker in the bank. And also from our experience, really banks are now in the some kind of phase where really recruiting people who are experts in digital models and digital transformation centers. So they all recognize those. But my second advice will also be that those people who are responsible for digital transformation, let's say in the bank, they need to spread their vision above the financial market and financial industry. They need to track, to monitor all technology that appears in the market, even if those technologies are not maybe now connect directly with financial industries, but will change behaviors, habits, or whatsoever of people who are using those technology. I will just give one short example. What is happening now? I already mentioned digital ID wallet, because digital ID wallet is completely topic for self. But for example, EU expects that until 2030, each EU citizens, not each, 80% of EU citizens will have or own at least one ID wallet. So this is even now today, and I heard that it will be even 2027. So for 3 years from now, which is very short period. So if you're now a bank, you need to think yesterday how and which products you can offer to those clients. So this is the clients, like I mentioned earlier, who has their identity digitally stored into the wallet, who has the certificate for signatures. So what kind of products bank can offer to these clients? Digital products. So that's the reason I say that they need to spread a little out of financial market and following and some other technology market, because this is here. It will happening.